If you're considering moving to the Greater Toronto Area, you may have heard about this new law that's preventing non-Canadians from buying properties in Canada. This law, known as the Foreign Buyers Ban, came into effect in January 1st of 2023, and it sparked a lot of debate and raised many questions for home buyers. In this video, we'll explore what the Foreign Buyers Ban is, how this will affect you as a potential homeowner, and what you could do to navigate the changing world of real estate in the GTA. What's up everyone, it's Nick Vazquez and we are back with another video. If you don't know who I am, I'm a real estate agent with years of experience helping people buy and sell properties in the Greater Toronto Area. I understand that the process of buying a home can be very overwhelming, especially when there are new rules and regulations to consider, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you navigate those rules and regulations and help you make the perfect choice for your family. So if you have any questions at all, especially outside of this video, if I didn't answer the question that you had, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help out in any way that I can, and I'm here to help you with every step of your real estate journey. Before we jump into the video, if you find this information valuable or informative at all, please just do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It does really help me out. Also, if you want to stay informed on everything that's going on in the real estate market and in the Greater Toronto Area in general, please consider subscribing to the channel. With that out of the way, let's jump into everything you need to know about the new Foreign Buyers Ban. So what is the Foreign Buyers Ban? Essentially, this is just a new law that prohibits non-Canadians from buying residential properties in Canada. They define a residential property here as a building with 3 or less units. So that's a triplex and below, which of course includes your detached, your semis, your townhomes, and your condos. The ban was implemented by the Government of Canada on January 1st of 2023, and it was in response to rising concerns about the fact that home prices were really high and housing affordability, it was really hard to afford a home. The idea behind the ban is to protect the housing market for Canadians and make housing accessible and affordable for them. So this ban applies to all non-Canadians and it's set to be in effect for the next 2 years. Now you might be wondering who's excluded from the Foreign Buyers Ban. Who does this ban not apply to? The ban doesn't apply to people who maybe have a spouse or a common law partner that is a Canadian citizen or they're a permanent resident here. It doesn't apply to properties with 4 or more units. It also doesn't apply to properties that are recreational properties, so things like cabins, cottages, and things like that. It doesn't apply to foreign nationals who may be affected by a death, a divorce, or a separation. Gifts of real property, so if someone gives you a property, does not apply under this ban. People that might be fleeing conflict zones or if they're refugees, they don't apply as well. And then these are the 2 big ones. So if you're a temporary worker in Canada and you plan to stay, this ban doesn't apply to you. However, you have to have been working for at least 3 years and you have to have filed taxes in Canada for the last 3 years. And finally, this ban does not apply also to people who are here as a temporary resident who are studying in Canada. But again, there are rules here. You have to have filed taxes for at least 5 years and you can't buy a property for over 500K, which may be a little bit hard to do in the GTA. Sounds kind of good, right? The government is trying to prevent people that don't live here, non-Canadians, from buying properties and sucking up the supply that's on the market, which in turn makes the price go up, so that these properties are available for Canadian citizens to purchase, and hopefully they would be at a more affordable price. So that's the whole premise of this ban. And it sounds kind of good, right? Like it makes sense, you know, you want Canadians to have access to housing, you don't want these people that don't live here buying up all the houses. The problem here is that this ban will probably have little to no effect on pricing in the GTA especially. There is a narrative out there and the media likes to push this narrative a lot. And the narrative is that there are a lot of rich foreign people buying houses here and that is why prices have skyrocketed. But if we just look at the stats pulled straight from Stats Canada, we can see that this is not the case at all. We can see that the number of non-resident owners in Ontario amounts to about 3% of the market. That's hardly enough of a percentage of buyers to shift the market in any direction. 3% is a very low number. The same is true if we look specifically at the Toronto condo market, because again, this narrative gets pushed a lot for Toronto condos. If we look at the stats there, CMHC did a polling recently as well, and they found that only about 2.4% of condos in the Toronto market were owned by non-residents. Now, those aren't numbers from 2022, but we can still be certain that the number of foreign property owners in Canada and in the GTA is less than 5%. And if you want to get a little crazy and be even more conservative, we can even say less than 10% of them are owned by non-Canadians. So does this ban even really make any sense? Especially when they're implementing the ban when the market has already softened about 20 to 30% depending on what area you're looking at. The true issue with pricing in the GTA is it's a supply problem, and it always has been a supply problem. The government needs to put more emphasis on that and focus on putting policies in place to increase the supply in the GTA. If they want to make homes more affordable for Canadians, they need to get more supply online so that Canadians have more options to choose from. Now, the problem with that is that the supply problem in the GTA is a really big problem, and it's going to take a long time to try and tackle that problem and solve it. It's much easier just to pass a ban like this that's just going to stop foreigners from buying property here and make it look like they're doing something to help affordability. Another issue is that this ban can actually hurt Canadian affordability in the long run. So take a look at this example. Let's say there's a real estate developer here that wants to buy a plot of land and put up a bunch of new houses, whether that's condos, whatever, doesn't really matter. And whether they're domestic or foreign, they want to buy this land, they want to build new houses, develop new units and stuff like that so that Canadians can buy those houses and live in them. But they might get spooked because of the government implementing policies like this. They might feel like the risk of their investment is not worth it at this point. Maybe because of this new policy, these developers are deciding they'd rather take their money and go to a different country where the rules aren't as strict. And obviously, if these developers leave and less houses are getting built here, that's just gonna make the price go up because the supply problem is not being addressed. And then the houses that do get built here will end up being more expensive because those investors need to make a return on their money. So in the long term, this can definitely reduce affordability. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, obviously, this ban doesn't make Canada automatically a more risky investment or anything for these people, but it is showing that the government is willing to go against what housing experts are saying, which all of them are just saying the supply is the issue and this ban isn't really going to do anything. The government's willing to go against that advice and just put these laws into place no matter what, which can scare some people off. And another issue with this ban is that it might prevent people that are maybe highly skilled who are thinking about moving to Canada. They might think about moving elsewhere just because they're not going to be able to buy a house. Here's another example. Maybe there's a highly skilled doctor in another country who is planning to move here and start a new life just because, Canada has great opportunity and stuff like that. But this new ban makes Canada a lot less welcoming, and that doctor may decide that they're gonna move somewhere else because they can't buy a house here and they don't want to deal with all that stuff when they move here. Canada is a country built by immigrants, and Canada needs highly skilled immigrants to continue coming here to help, especially for things like healthcare. And this ban is probably gonna make a lot of those highly skilled people look elsewhere. Maybe they're gonna go to the States now because they can't even buy a house here and they don't want to rent. Anyways, there's just a lot of issues with this ban. I feel like they're trying to do good by trying to fix a really big problem, but they're attacking it from the wrong side. They should be looking at the other side. And yes, the other side is a bigger issue to try and fix, and that's a lot more time intensive and money intensive to try and fix that problem. Still, I think they're just looking at it from the wrong angle and putting in policies that aren't really gonna do much. But anyways, what do you think about the new foreign buyers ban? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's gonna help affordability? Drop a comment below and let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. Now let's move on to how the foreign buyers ban will affect you. Obviously, if you're a Canadian and you already live in Canada, this ban isn't gonna affect you at all, so no need to worry. But if you're a foreigner who was planning to move here, this ban will affect your ability to buy a home. There are options though. If you're thinking of moving to Canada, here are a few things that you can consider. So number one is you can still rent a home in the GTA. So while the ban does prohibit you from buying a home, it doesn't say anything about you renting a home. So you could still come here, maybe you're thinking the GTA might be somewhere that you want to live for a long term, but you weren't ready to buy a house yet, then this ban doesn't really affect you at all. You can still come here, you could still rent, then once the ban expires, you could buy if that's what you want to be doing. Number two is you could still buy a home if you're a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. And if you're planning on staying in Canada for the long term, then becoming a permanent resident or a citizen could be a good option for you. This will allow you to purchase a home here in the GTA and become a part of the community. Obviously, if you're a permanent resident, this will take some time as you would have had to live here for a few years and file taxes for a few years. But you could still come here, rent for a few years, and wait until either the ban expires or you hit the criteria necessary to buy. So that is still an option. Now, number three is you could still purchase the home with the help of a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. Now, you can't just get some random guy in the street and get them to buy a home for you. That's not gonna work. But if you have a spouse or a common law partner who already is a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, then you can buy a house with them, no problem. Obviously, in the case of the permanent resident, they would have had to have been here for 3 years and filed taxes for 3 years, but either way, if they meet that criteria, you could buy a house with them. If any of those 3 options apply to you, definitely reach out to me. If you have any questions, I can answer them and go through those options in more depth. Obviously, this ban will provide some challenges for newcomers to the country, but you still do have options. So if you have any questions or you are still thinking about moving here, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have and figure out what your options would be with you. Also, if you already live here and you were just dropping by to check out what this new ban is all about, please feel free to reach out to me as well. If you have any questions about real estate, about this law, or if you are considering making a move, just reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have and help out in any way that I can. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do appreciate each and every one of you. If you learned something new, if this video was valuable for you, please just hit that like button. It does really help me out. Also, if you want to keep yourself informed on everything that's going on in the real estate market and in the Greater Toronto Area in general, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks again for all your support. We'll see you on the next video and have a good week.